What's going on, everybody? Games for Days here, back again with another video. So there's been so much talk about who's leaking this, who's leaking that. Today we're going to go to the actual horse's mouth, Miyazaki himself. We're going to take a look at all his interview quotes and see what we can learn about Elden Ring. I promise you we're going to talk about a bunch of things today about the game that you may have forgotten about if you saw before, because yesterday my mind was blown. I've learned quite a bit. As always, before we get to the Miyazaki quotes, if you end up enjoying the video and you learn something, drop a like to help my channel grow. Also, if you're new, subscribe. I upload almost every day. Let's do this. Quotes from Miyazaki were from an interview he did shortly after we saw the first reveal trailer on Elden Ring. So let's get to him. Here's the first one. Elden Ring is a third-person action RPG with a fantasy setting, he said. The gameplay is not so far from Dark Souls. That doesn't mean the gameplay will be identical, but you could say that Elden Ring belongs to the same category or genre. So basically what he's saying here is Elden Ring is going to be like the evolution of Dark Souls, if you will. So I'm sure the gameplay is going to be similar, but you know, they're going to throw in new things with mechanics, with gameplay. We're going to have the day-night cycle. So picture this in your mind. You start fighting a boss, it's mid-afternoon. By the time you kill it, you know, it's nighttime, and or say you're in the middle of a fight and a storm comes through. All of a sudden it's pouring out and you got lightning smashing all around you and shit. I mean, it's going to be amazing. With a larger world, new systems and action mechanics inevitably become necessary, he said. In that sense, I think that Elden Ring is a more natural evolution of Dark Souls. So just as I was saying, because they went full open world, I think that had to bring in, you know, way to get around, which is going to introduce the horses. And I think that's also going to introduce new things as to where you can go with what abilities you have, depending on what bosses you've taken down. While the narrow and complex dungeons of previous games were indeed interconnected, Elden Ring's environments will be much more open and vast, said Miyazaki. The more extensive world will form the base of Elden Ring's gameplay, and its mechanics are designed with that type of environment in mind. So this is as I was just saying about why we're going to need horses and such, because, you know, Elden Ring's environments will be much more open and vast, he's talking about, and the world, because it's so extensive, will make us have to use these new mechanics to be able to get around, you know? So the whole world going to be interconnected like Dark Souls, but it's going to be, you know, much bigger, much farther away. And I think it's also going to be cool because we can do different things with enemies too. Say, you know, pull enemies places that they shouldn't be, or, you know, have enemies encounter each other that usually shouldn't see each other, because the world's going to be, you know, open world and not just, you know, that narrow interconnected stuff that we're used to. Miyazaki gives 3 reasons why he wanted to introduce this new type of environment. 1, showing the game's world and lore on a grander scale. Maybe we're going to see enemies that are so goddamn big that they couldn't fit in previous Souls games, you know? We've seen pretty big dragons, but who knows? Open world, who fucking knows? Adding more freedom and depth to exploration, and creating more variation to battles. So as I just said, more variation to battles, meaning you could see enemies from 2 different parts of the worlds, dude, at the same point in time, to which that could never happen really in Dark Souls 3, you know, or anything like that, because enemies are stuck where they are. In Elden Ring, enemies are going to be able to go wherever the hell they want, it sounds like. Villages will be dark dungeon-like ruins that you'll come to expect from us, Miyazaki said, laughing. Creating a more open game is a big challenge for us. If we were to add towns on top of that, it would become a bit too much. So we decided to create an open world style game focused on what we are best at. So this is a pretty big one. So if any of you are wondering if we're going to have villages and or towns, cities with people doing everyday life shit running around, we are not. What you can expect, I believe, from what he said, is the usual everybody's dead, everybody's gone type of stuff we're used to in these FromSoft games, right? I mean, I'm sure we're going to explore these towns, villages, cities, but there's going to be no one there other than, you know, fucked up things for us to destroy and kill, stuff like that. You know, a la Bloodborne, you know, how they had the town cities, but all you had was basically enemies. You're not going to see any normal people running around Elden Ring because the Elden Ring was smashed, and we'll get to that, but this is a huge one. Storytelling in video games, at least the way we do it at From Software, comes with a lot of restrictions for the writer. I don't think it was a good idea to have Martin write within those restrictions. By having him write about a time the player isn't directly involved in, he is free to unleash his creativity in the way he likes. Furthermore, as FromSoft, we didn't want to create a more linear and story-driven experience for Elden Ring. Both issues could be solved by having Martin write about the world's history instead. This is also a big deal, so for those of you who don't know, George R. Martin only wrote the prologue in like the base for the story behind Elden Ring. He didn't write the entire story. He really had nothing to do with anything past the prologue in the game. And as Miyazaki just said in his quote, they set it up this way, that way they could both kind of have freedom and not affect each other, but affect each other at the same time. So the beginning cutscene we're going to see in the prologue will have been done by George R. R. Martin. He wrote basically the base for From Software to, jump off of, which is really interesting. It was a fascinating collaboration, as we both weren't restricted by each other, yet still influenced each other's work, he reflected. So that's, as I was just saying, by having him write the opening, in a time period where we weren't involved in, that's when From Software can take control of everything that we actually play through, being as George R. R. Martin only, wrote about the part where we didn't get to experience. It really is like a guide for the world's lore, and therefore feels quite different from his novels. As someone that loves to learn about a world setting, it was very exciting to read, Miyazaki told me. So Miyazaki basically, again, had George R. R. Martin set the base for the entire world. From Software then took it and, molded it into everything that they wanted to be. The player will be able to learn about Martin's mythology through exploration, confirmed Miyazaki. We are known for letting the player explore the game's lore through fragments of environmental storytelling, as we all know, item descriptions. This time around, Martin's story is what you'll be trying to unravel. The period the player actually explores is still connected to the old times, so as you slowly discover why the world has become the way it is, you will learn more about Martin's mythology as well. So as we all know, Souls games, we like to find out about the game through the item descriptions. It sounds like Elden Ring is going to follow suit, same exact stuff. Except we're going to be learning about what George R. R. Martin wrote about, because our item descriptions are usually, about really old shit that happened a long time ago. And as I told you, George R. R. Martin wrote the prologue, set the base for the game, so anything we learn to find out is going to be connected to what he set up for From Software, which is really cool. There is no fixed main character in Elden Ring, said Miyazaki. We mostly leave it up to the player to decide if the characteristics and personality of the character they create. So it sounds like we're going to be creating our character start to finish like we're used to in Soulsborne games, except the only thing that has me a little worried is they said we mostly leave it up to the player. So I don't know what that could mean, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get, our stats, classes, all that good stuff. Depending on the game's setting, beauty, justice, and strength all have a different nuance, he mused. With a Japanese setting, those aspects had to be portrayed in a different way. I always want to create worlds with a beautiful aesthetic, but the approach towards that goal is always different. While for Elden Ring, we are going back to Western fantasy, the game's themes are very different from our previous works, which means that beauty, justice, and strength will be different once again. That difference has a big impact on our games as a whole. Now I think with this, he just kind of wanted to go back to Western fantasy style to be able to do more of what he wanted, because I think he's trying to say, with Sekiro, they had to stay locked within a certain, boundary, because, everything and the way it's presented in Japan with all the things, the rules, everything else. So another good, exciting fact. Light looks more beautiful in darkness, said Miyazaki. When there is something beautiful in the middle of a wasteland, we are able to appreciate it more. One jewel doesn't look like much when you have a pile of them, but if you find one jewel in the midst of mud, it's worth so much more. That's very FromSoft-esque. So, as we know, they like to make very dead, dark worlds, which we all love, and it makes it that much better when you find something amazing in that world. I 100% agree with this, and from the sounds of it, I think Elden Ring is going to be very fucking dark, dude. Don't go into it thinking we're going to be, seeing some bright, sunshiny FromSoft game. I do not think so at all. I think because the Elden Ring has been broken, the world's gonna be real fucked up. Personally, a world that is happy and bright isn't something that just doesn't feel realistic to me. It may sound like I have trauma or something, he said with a laugh, but I believe the world is generally a wasteland that is not kind to us. That's just the way I see it. So Elden Rings, it sounds like, is going to be one of the darkest FromSoft games we've ever gotten our hands on, and it makes me real excited. Alrighty, so this is going to be the end of the video. Hopefully you guys learned some things. Maybe if you knew these things already, you forgot them, but this is making you excited again. But this is all from Miyazaki himself. No leaks, nothing like that. From what it sounds like, Elden Ring's going to be an evolution of Dark Souls 3. We're going to have horses, we're going to have weather effects, we're going to have a day and night cycle. It's going to be much larger, which is going to introduce new game mechanics for us, and it's going to be dark as hell. I am fucking pumped up, dude. I believe after February 1st, we have a trailer coming. I will keep you guys updated and posted with more Elden Ring news. Enjoy your night.